in Austin on the 40 acres. On campus grounds, we gather round. Discussing goals and dreams and life's adventures. The Texas Longhorns, they're the talk of the town. High castles of the 40 acres, where we dive deep into the game day stories. From touchdowns to heartbreakers, we discuss it all. Texas Longhorns glory. There, we gather around each Thursday night, talking sports, it's so alright. From football to basketball, baseball to softball, Tim Wayne and Harry, we cover it all. Sports talk is our passion, our delight. Thursday night at 8:30, we unite. We discuss the scores, the plays, the teams who might. Let's dive into the game, let's ignite.
12 conference champions.
Yo, what's up? What's up? It is a Texas Longhorn Fan Battle podcast. Of course, my name's Harish. This is my guy Tim Wayne. Tim Wayne, what's up tonight, man? How you doing?
Man, big news hit us today. In the world, it suffered a major loss in the sports industry with Jim Irsay passing away. So it's been a pretty interesting last 48 hours, and yeah, we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, obviously I'm a Colts fan, so obviously Jim Irsay meant a lot to my childhood growing up, being a Colts fan, and the success that he brought the city, what he meant for the organization, and just like Indianapolis as a whole. So obviously, our prayers and thoughts go out to the Irsay family. His daughters will take over the team as it's already been announced. And I think this has been known, and I'm not like conspiracy theorist or anything, but I've said this for a couple of years now, right? Jim Irsay has not looked good, or he has not looked well, probably since like late 2023. And his last public appearance was right after that 23 season, and really he's been kind of in the background in the last couple of years, like a year and a half or so. So I think, and I don't know for sure, right? I think Jim Irsay's been sick for a while. The Irsays knew, and it sounds like his plan was just kind of go. Because that kind of follows the timeline of like kind of what's been going on. Because he passed in his sleep, which is peaceful to say the least. So thankfully that's how he passed, right? Any details beyond that are still unknown. We don't know if he was, because in the owners meetings were this week. There was people saying that Carly was at the owners meetings and not Jim. So we don't know if he was like, but then he was also at the owners meeting. So was he like there but not there? Were they there together and he passed? I don't think we really know all this. And I'm not saying that we deserve to know, or that we should know.
Right.
I'm just kind of curious.
Okay. I mean, I think that's natural for anybody to be like, hey, such and such as prominent figure passes away in the sports industry or any industry, regardless. You run into a situation where you want to know like what was the reasoning or how it happened. And of course, I guess from my own standpoint, like I would want to know, because I would hope that in a situation like that, he would go peacefully, making it, an easy transition for him. Of course, again, thoughts and prayers to the Irsay family. A couple of stats for those who don't necessarily know about Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay is one of the youngest NFL GMs ever. He was a GM around 24, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe in his 30s. I'm sorry, his 30s.
In his 30s. I think it was like 34, 35.
Yeah,
he's been all over the NFL, right? He was an equipment manager. He kind of did everything, right?
Right.
He'd been around the franchise since his dad bought the Colts.
Right. So, of course, he and Bill Polian. Am I saying that right? Bill Polian or Polian?
Polian. Yep.
Polian. Responsible for getting good old Peyton Manning in there, and submitting and starting a real run. A lot of those years outside of Peyton in that first year, we saw a lot of 13-3s. Of course, we all know about the Indianapolis Colts Patriots rivalry, the Indianapolis Colts Texans rivalry, and of course the Indianapolis Colts Jags rivalry. That's always very wonky and always has some weird stuff going on in it. I was not privy to Jim Irsay until I would say early 2000s, after they won the championship, because at that point in time, like he really wasn't in the forefront like that. But there was some situations, unfortunately, and he looked like he definitely changed his life around. And we're not ones to judge. We've all got our own different vices and things like that. But one thing I will say that Jim Irsay does like to do is Jim Irsay likes to have a good time, and he's a straight shooter. Just from the interviews and from what Harish has shared with me over the years as a Colts fan, and being a diehard Colts fan, Jim is definitely a straight shooter. So again, thoughts and prayers to him, and to the Colts fan base, and to Jim's family. So, outside of that, what's been on, man?
Not much, man. I mean, yeah, that was kind of shocking how that came out, and kind of just one of those things that kind of changed the course of the entire night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just think about like all the cool stuff that he did for, that he raised. I think they came out last $30 million on behalf of the Colts, just for mental health awareness, which is crazy. Like,
yeah,
and obviously, he dealt with a lot of stuff, so mental health was very near and dear to him. Loved by the players, was a true players owner, like really well respected around the football community. So, we lost a legend, and may he rest in peace. And,
yep.
Obviously, may the Colts continue to succeed, because that's what he would have wanted. So,
yep.
I think on the field though, things get really interesting now with Jim Irsay.
Yeah.
Chris Ballard is now all of a sudden like the seat for Chris Ballard is piping hot. Like we're talking purely from a football perspective. Like if the seat wasn't already hot, like I think Chris Ballard was protected by Jim Irsay, because Jim Irsay that was kind of like his last hope of like being around the Colts. And so Jim Irsay, I think one of the things that Jim Irsay did not do well over the last 10 years is pivot quickly. He kept Frank Reich too long. Chris Ballard has been here 3 years too long. Shane Steichen is I don't think personnel wise he has done a great job of managing his folks. Like Ryan Grigson was around way too long. If he gets rid of Grigson sooner, do we find somebody that can protect Andrew Luck faster? Is he still playing?
Right.
Like, I think a lot of those things. I think because he's such like an employer's guy or a guy's guy or like things like that, it was kind of to his detriment, right? Like it kind of led to the detriment of the franchise and some inability to potentially win sooner and more. He did it throughout the entire Peyton series too, right? Like it took him forever to move on to Tony Dungy, right? And really, Bill Polian should have been held accountable way before he was. In that Peyton Manning era. So as good as he was as a guy inside of the NFL, he was so good it was almost like to a fault. So why does all that matter? Well, we'll talk about it here in a second, because it's on fanbattlesports.com, fanbattlesports.com, where you can get the latest and greatest from the AFC South, including, of course, all the teams we just spoke about now.
Yep.
The Colts, the Jaguars, the Titans, and the who's the other team in that division? The Texans.
Dude, you be disrespecting them teams, dog.
I mean, they are rivals. I ain't trying to like them. I'm not supposed to like them.
Hey, man. Hey, I don't want no problems, man. I don't want no problems.
Yeah. So fanbattlesports.com. Of course, go there if you want to start your own show. Fill out the form. Let us know. We'll get you started. FanBattleSports.com. At the bottom there, of course, follow us on all of our socials at LH Fan Battle on Twitter, Longhorn Fan Battle on YouTube, and then Longhorn Fan Battle Podcast on TikTok. If you're live on the TikTok show, smash the like button on the screen, get us more likes, comment here on the show. I've got this pull up here today, so I'll be keeping track and checking everyone out as they comment here on the show. We really appreciate the support.
Yep.
If you're on the YouTubes, do all the fun stuff. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Share it with your friends. Share it with their friends. Do all those fun things. We really need your support as we continue to grow this platform.
Yep.
Fan Battle Sports. Longhorn Fan Battle. All right, Tim.
Yep.
So let's talk about speaking of the Mannings and all that fun stuff. Let's talk about another Manning.
Yep.
One that is now currently quarterback one for the Texas Longhorns.
Yep.
Arch Manning. So this kind of stems from your post, we'll call it post spring boredom post, right? And this is a classic boredom post.
Okay.
Right? Joe Klatt did a show the other day, and I'm sure you can see this right now, where he kind of ranked his top 10 quarterbacks in the country.
Yep.
First and foremost, let me tell you, as good as the quarterback talent is going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am really concerned, and I'll bring us side to side here. I'm really concerned with this list is really interesting to me.
Okay. Tell me why.
So you look at this list. First off, I don't think a guy that can beat Wyoming should.
What did you say? You kind of dropped out of there.
I said I don't think a guy who can't beat Wyoming should be considered a top 10 quarterback in the country. That's just me.
Hey, no, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking
it. Quinn Ewers loses to Wyoming 2 years ago, he would have been dusted.
Mm-hmm.
John Mateer could not beat Wyoming, but apparently he's the third best quarterback in the country. That doesn't make sense to me.
You know why I think they put him there? Because of the combination of him and what he did at Washington State. Also because he has transferred over to Oklahoma. I think that instantly puts him in a different stratosphere. Yeah. Because I think they're expecting the talent at Oklahoma to be more superior than Washington State. And when you put a quarterback in a situation like this has happened over the years. Let's be completely honest. A lot of these quarterbacks have come into a situation at Oklahoma where the talent was far more superior than where they were at. I would say, and I would say this, and a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy. Outside of Jalen Hurts, a lot of the guys that came in where they transferred from, they was far more superior. That team had far more superior wide receivers, far more superior offensive line talent, running backs, things like that. So, like I said, outside of Jalen Hurts, you do run into a situation where, like, let's compare teams, and I think again you run into a situation where he gets boosted and he gets that Oklahoma SEC bias boost. Now, do I think he's on the level of Sam Leavitt? No.
Right.
Rattler? No. Garrett Nussmeier? No. DJ Lagway? No. Lenore Sellers? Maybe. And Lenore Sellers is special.
I think, but Lenore Sellers, like towards the end of the season, was a top 5 quarterback.
Balling out of control.
Right.
I told you, I said, if, and this was a side conversation prior last year, during the time where they were making these pushes where people were starting to consider South Carolina.
Yeah.
I said, dog, that's not a team I want to play right now.
Yeah, we talked about it here on the show.
The fastest defensive line, and Lenore Sellers was balling at one point in time. He was at one point in time. To me, outside of, I don't even think Carson was playing as good as he was at a time. Lenore Sellers
Yeah.
was one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the SEC last year.
Yeah,
At
it was
one
either
point.
him or Dylan Pavia, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, forgot about Pavia because
Yeah.
you can't forget about him. So
Right.
yeah, like yes, this was they're shortchanging on a lot of these guys, and that's unfortunate. I don't necessarily know who's in Joe Klatt's ear. I mean, he is a quarterback, so I'll give him a little bit of leeway, but to completely put John Mateer up at number 3 is asinine to me. I don't like that.
It is us. And I'll give you this. I don't think Arch Manning's the second best quarterback in the country right now.
Me neither.
Here's the thing.
How would you let me get your top 3? Just give me your top 3 on what it looks like.
My top 3 in no particular order is Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, and I like Sam Levitt.
I'm not mad at that. My top 3 would be Cade, Garrett Nussmeier, and Drew Aller. That would be my top 3. If we were doing like top 4 or 5, then I would put DJ up in there. And regardless, if we know he turns the ball over, but he does win big games, you got to throw Carson in there. That's the most experienced quarterback of all of them, and you're gonna put him at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, right? I don't know if I would put DJ Lagway over Arch right now.
No, I'm not putting DJ Lagway over Arch. I'm not right now. No,
sorry.
One, because he doesn't have enough experience.
Yeah.
He did get injured last year, and it was a significant injury.
Yep.
So that's number 1. 2, I think the talent at Florida versus the talent at Texas is I think it's a bit better. I think there is a big difference between the talent at Florida. And again, I'm not knocking Florida because Florida almost took Georgia out.
Yeah.
So, and Texas put up a pretty good, decent amount of points on them. Now, of course, they didn't have DJ Lagway playing, but that could have been a different situation. But we know what DJ Lagway can do, and we know what he is going to do. He is going to be a problem next year.
For sure.
You cannot overlook him as I don't think he's that low, but I don't think he should be high. I don't think he should be over Arch Manning.
No, I can agree with that. But yeah, and I personally, I'm a big fan of Garrett Nussmeier. I think Garrett must listen. Forget about what happened to Garrett Nussmeier. Right? That dude was trying to work miracles to get that LSU team to where they need to be. Right? They haven't had the receiver talent at LSU in a couple of years now. Right?
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been
the Malik Neighbors class, right? But even with Malik Neighbors, right? He was their only guy.
Right.
Obviously, Lacey, obviously we know what happened to him.
Yeah.
But the receiver talent has not been there. And so that plays a factor into that. I don't know. The receiver talent this is a make or break season for Drew Aller. This year is this year's Quinn Ewers.
Drew Aller this year is this year's what?
Quinn Ewers. And let me explain that.
Okay. No, I get what you're saying. I'm get what you're putting down.
Yeah. His play this year is either gonna rise or it's gonna tank his draft stock. Right? Because they went out and they got receivers for him, right? Last year it's like, well, he didn't have any receivers. They have 2 quarterbacks. Right. 2 years ago, well, he got hurt. He's still kind of learning the system. 3 years ago. I think he's a senior now. He's got a lot of experience. He's outside of Carson Beck, he's the second most experienced quarterback on this list.
Yeah.
Maybe Sam Levitt is 3, right?
And
then Klubnik is 4 because Klubnik, was also in the playoffs last year. So I think it's a very interesting. I think this list in general is very interesting. I personally don't think Arch Manning's the second best quarterback in the country. And where would you put him?
Around that the 5, 6, or 7.
That's kind of where I was thinking. Right?
Yeah,
I probably have Cade. I think Cade Klubnik's the best quarterback in the country right now.
Yeah, I think Cade Klubnik is the best quarterback in the club. Listen, outside of a couple of bad plays against Texas,
He was
He
excellent.
didn't have a bad year. I mean, he didn't have a bad game.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
was excellent.
there was a couple of covered sacks that they did give up, and there was a couple of situations where drop balls and a couple holding penalties and a like blown coverage on the defensive side
Yeah,
that normally doesn't happen with Clemson, especially from a running standpoint, or a defensive front standpoint. They did screw the pooch on quite a few plays. Definitely opened it up for Texas, and I definitely think that home crowd makes a difference as well because it was
sure.
definitely loud there. But in that, other than that, man, like I think he's clearly number one. Now, the thing is like, what do we get out of this? Now, again, I know where we're at in the season. Everything is a poll. Everything is an absolute
Yeah,
poll. Way too early poll. Way too many
top
this.
25
Top
playoff
25.
prediction.
Like I get it. Everything is a poll. This is what generates content. This is what generates clicks.
Yeah,
But I just don't think that I think you're putting too much pressure on Arch. Not to say that he's not to say that he can't live up to it, because I definitely feel like he can live up to it. But just to put him at number 2 and he's only had maybe 3 games to play in, that's a little bit insane. If even if you put Sam Levitt up there at number 2, I wouldn't be mad at that. I
that's
wouldn't be
kind of
mad
what
at
I
that.
had, right? Like, is Sam Levitt 2 to me, and then is Garrett Nussmeyer 3, right?
None of these
3
guys are
dollar
going to be on
4, yeah.
outside of
Then-
John Mateer. And again, it's not an Oklahoma thing. It's literally like he's getting the bump because I think he's getting the bump because he's at Oklahoma. Again, what he did at Washington State was phenomenal.
yeah,
However, that didn't amount to anything. If you think about it, K. Klubnik, playoff. Sam Levitt, playoff. Drew Allard, playoff. Garrett Nussmeyer, playoff. DJ Lagway, even though he had an injury-ridden year, he still performed very well when he was on the field.
Yep.
We talked about Lenore Sellers, Lenore Sellers, and how that team, maybe they beat Georgia, maybe they maybe they don't lose as many games as they do, maybe they enter into the playoff, maybe they get into the SEC championship.
Yep.
Then what do you gotta say? And Lenore Sellers is also very young. These are young quarterbacks
I
outside.
think he was a freshman, right? Or was he a sophomore?
These are young guys.
Yeah.
Luke, I don't know enough about him. I don't have enough information on him, or really haven't seen him play enough for me to be like, oh, this is a top 10 quarterback. So I'm not gonna judge based on the knowledge that I have, because I don't have enough knowledge on him.
That's fair.
Carson Beck, SEC champion at an SEC school, at a major school, been in multiple SEC championships. Is he, I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with him or what the talent looks like at Miami. I do know that they have revved up quite a bit of talent here within the last couple of years. So it doesn't matter. There is a thing that I'm interested in with Carson Beck and how he's going to fit in that scheme. But yeah, outside of that, dude, this is all clickbait.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about any of those guys outside of John Mateer. I don't think he deserves to be on that list that high.
Yeah,
anywhere 5 and below, I would not be upset.
I just think it goes back to the lack of experience there is in the college game right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a lot of young guys. And I think your experienced guys are kind of getting they're getting the benefit of the doubt just because they are just that, right? Experienced.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what John Mateer is going to do in Oklahoma, but based on what I've seen, I'm not overly impressed. I'm not as excited about John Mateer as a lot of people seem to be.
Right.
Look, I get the talent.
And the hype, there is hype there. Just so people know, there is hype there about him coming to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Again, coming out of Washington State. And Washington State is a program that a lot of people need to kind of they have been poked at. They've been poked and prodded and made fun of, but they're starting to produce real talent. Again, that is another team that in a couple of years they get the right guys, they get the right NIL deals, they get the right, the right quarterback. I mean, the right the right scheme and fit. Yeah,
You
they
make a
can
run,
make some,
right?
they can make some noise, yes, for sure.
But also at the same token, you can't tell me that Washington State can't pull enough talent together to beat Wyoming.
Mhm.
You cannot tell me that. And that's what look, I get it. It's Washington State. You lost to Wyoming at the end of the day. You cannot convince me you don't have enough talent. I'm sorry, you just can't. You just
Yeah, I get
can't.
it. Yeah, I'm not against it. I get it. I totally get what you're saying. It's just, yeah, you can't do that. You can't screw the pooch and then say, "Oh, this is top 10 quarterback." Doesn't make sense. But anyway, we move on.
Any other thoughts on that list?
No.
All right. Let's
Look,
move on to
this next topic. Oh, and before we move on here, I just want to throw this quick caveat in here because it did come down the pike this morning here, and I don't know if you caught it or not. Ohio State lobbied to have their game moved from the
Sunday.
night game to the 12 o'clock game.
No. They wanted to move it to Sunday night. Not only did they so here's the thing.
That I saw
There's
something
so
different.
many details here that are left out, right? This wasn't just about moving it to a night.
Okay.
They wanted to make it the Sunday night and make it a Sunday night prime time.
I heard it was a big noon. They were trying to move it to a big noon game.
No, Ohio State wanted to make it a Sunday night game, and Texas said no. Because Texas had to then travel the next week for another game on a short week.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not fair at all.
Right? And that's the reason why Texas. So Ohio State fans wants to get their panties in a wad and say, "Oh, Texas is scared." I promise you, Texas is not afraid to go to Ohio State. Ohio State is not scary to Texas, right? Please stop driving this narrative that somehow an Ohio State team with no quarterback is somebody to be afraid of, because it's
not. Yeah,
you have Jeremiah Smith. You don't even know who your quarterback is going to be. You think it's going to be Julian Sayin, but you don't even know who your quarterback is going to be.
No.
And even if you did know who your quarterback is going to be, I will tell you right now, your quarterback today is not better than he's not. You can pick Julian Sayin. You can pick I'm saying, you're saying. I don't really care who you're picking. Whatever quarterback any quarterback Ohio State has on their roster today is not better. It's probably not even close.
Right.
So, that's kind of my take on the whole Arch Manning thing, or the whole Ohio State thing. Is clarity, number one. They didn't say no to a night game. It's not like they said, "Oh yeah, I don't want to go to Saturday. I don't want to go to Columbus on Saturday night."
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I'd love.
I do want a night game. I don't want a big noon game. I think, and you know what? The frustrations, that's not only with Ohio State, that's with the Big Ten in general. These Big Ten matchups that are happening, these major matchups, Oregon and USC at 12 o'clock. What? These are prime time.
Yeah, because they don't want to compete with the other games. They don't want to go compete with an Alabama, Texas, or a Tennessee versus Alabama, or Georgia, Tennessee. They don't want to compete with those games.
They need to schedule it later in the day. That is a major matchup, regardless of what time it is. As a diehard college football fan, me or you are watching this game. But there's a bunch of casuals out there, right? And these casuals are not going to be able to watch these games if they got a million things to do and they got to be at Home Depot because they got a broken fence and that fence needs to be fixed. And there's little Timmy's got a honeydew list that he needs to knock out. So
yeah,
they gotta fix something. They've got to find a happy medium. I don't know what it is or how you do it. Maybe instead of it, maybe we all know that college football is getting later and later in the day. Move it to like a 4 or 5 and then have that other game maybe at 7:30 instead of 6:30. That main game.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do in regards to it. Again, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of things being played with and toyed with. They need to figure it out and
Sure.
get it right, because I don't want to watch Oregon USC at 12 o'clock on Saturday. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to get the BS games out of the way and prepare for the major matchups.
Yeah. Let
That's
this
what I
be the
want.
only game on, and let this be the only focus, right?
Right. Give it all the attention it deserves.
So no, I get that. I'm not a big fan of big kickoff of like your college game day at Ohio State, but the game is until later. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm down with that too.
Game day does this all the time. They might go to Oxford, right? But the game's
Mhm.
not till 2:30, right? Or
Yep.
they might go to whatever, and the game's not until 7 p.m.
Yep.
It happens all the time. Your big noon kickoff show game doesn't have to be the big game,
Yep.
right? So, yeah, they need to figure out timings. They've got to be more competitive, and
Yep.
and if they cannot figure that out, I don't know what's going to happen in the next TV deal. But you cannot tell me Texas Ohio State is a noon game on Saturday, the first week of the season. Yeah. Some of the other here, let me look. Some of the other games that day. Let's go. Let me take a look real quick. So week 1.
I think that is the game for this season. Like, I think we start out as the number one game. Of course, there'd be other like college football kickoff games with lesser major teams there. I don't think we have do we have a Thursday night game that week? We might. I'm not sure.
Yes. Well, not like a big game, but yes, there's a Thursday night game.
Who is it? I want to say there's also a Friday night game too.
Yeah, Boise State, South Florida is like the big third. Oh, Nebraska, Cincinnati is like the big Thursday.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. I'm
Interesting,
gonna watch it regardless. I'm watching it. It's gonna
Listen, I'm all aboard the Dylan Raiola train. I am. If it isn't for the entertainment behind it, I'm all for I like Dylan Raiola. I think he's gonna take a huge step this year. That's a guy.
I just want him to stop acting like Patrick Mahomes.
I think that's just a funny part about it. Like that's a funny.
I mean, they do look like doppelgangers. So if he does become some superstar quarterback, I can definitely see them on a State Farm commercial.
Auburn Baylor is on Friday.
Okay.
Good this year.
Hopefully.
They should be good if they could stay healthy. They should be good.
Hopefully they're good. Hopefully they're good.
Guess who you think Kansas is playing that week?
I have no idea.
Wagner. Ever heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of Wagner.
Never heard of them.
I've heard of Wagner.
I thought we were playing a basketball opening game. Never heard of Wagner. Not as a football school anyway.
No.
Georgia Tech, Colorado.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I like
that's that game. I think it's gonna be a very fascinating game. Keaton Salter versus Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
That should be, and that's the night game Friday night.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, can't knock the hustle. I actually like that matchup a lot.
Yep.
And then Saturday, there's still a bunch of TBD games. Scrolling to the list, Syracuse, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida State is the 2:30 game. I still don't know what to think about Florida State. LSU, Clemson's the night game.
God damn it. Oh.
Well, speaking of our list, you'll get number 1 versus number 8 on that list, or number 7.
Yeah.
On the opening night. And then the football after dark game is an old Pac-12 game. Cal versus Oregon State.
Okay. I'll take.
And then the Sunday, the Sunday game is Notre Dame, Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The Monday night game is TCU, North Carolina.
Who?
TCU, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
So that's essentially what. So they would have either gone up against or replaced Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama or sorry, LSU, Clemson, or TCU, North Carolina. If they could have replaced TCU, North Carolina on that Monday night if they decided to play that game.
My
So
only thing is that that next game is going to be San Diego State. Nobody's
yeah,
San
and
Diego.
they're at home, right? And that's
Right.
likely a 2:30 game.
Yeah,
But you get one less day to rest after a Sunday. You actually get 2 less days to rest if it was
right. That is true because that Sunday you're going to be traveling for sure.
right.
Yeah.
Because you're going. I think that's the other thing. You're going to Columbus,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to come back. Let's just say the game's Sunday. You come back. It's Monday.
Mhm.
You lose all of Monday because it's a rest day.
Right.
You really only have 4 days to prepare, but you're only playing like a San Jose State, right?
Yeah.
If they were playing like I don't know, a Mercer, right? I'm just throwing that name. If that was that top caliber school, okay, fine.
Right.
San Diego State is still like they're a decent team. They're not going to beat Texas, but
No.
they're not slums, right? I mean, they
No,
might have
not at
some
all.
players that are player fairly good, right? So we'll see what happens. I'm not a fan of it being on Saturday afternoon or
No.
Saturday morning, but I'm also not.
If this was Ohio State at Texas, this would be a night game. Not gonna lie to you, that would be
Oh, it would be 100. It would be the Saturday night,
absolute
and
night.
next year it will be this. Well, not next year. 2 years from now it will be.
Yeah.
Right. So, hey, I guess we're just gonna have to beat Columbus during the daytime. I don't
What it
know.
is.
I don't know what they want us to do. All right, Tim. Speaking of changes and things that you like and do not like, today the college football committee approved a full basically readoption of the college football seating.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, basically saying we're going straight seeds this year.
Right.
You win a conference title, you're guaranteed a spot,
Right.
but you're not guaranteed a top 4 spot.
Right.
So, first off, what does that mean for like this year's seating? So, this is what it would mean if that applied for this year's college football playoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring up a quick graphic here. Bring us back right here. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. This is what that's not. That's a little too small. There we go. And I'll move over here. All right. So, if this is how the college football seeding played out this year, Texas would have been a 3 seed, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's the top 12 seeds based off the last college football playoff ranking. And instead of being a 4 seed, right? Boise State would have been a 9 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas would have gotten the bye.
Right.
Right? What are your thoughts? Also, Arizona State would have been an 11 seed and would have had to play Ohio State.
Right. I think this is absolute crock of shit. And the reason why I feel like that is because it gets to a point to we're moving away from rewarding who needs to be rewarded. The people that need to be rewarded are the 4 teams that have won in their Power 5 conference. That's just it. That is how the model has always been worked. That is how the model has always been presented, even prior to the playoff seeding. It has always been that way. And you are in a situation where you're again, I love football just as much as everybody else. And I understand it's a business and you're trying to get as many good teams in here as possible. But there is no way that I think, and I'm saying this as a Longhorn fan, there's no way that Texas plays Georgia, loses to Georgia, and then earns a bye. That doesn't make sense to me. That does not make sense to me. You should award your conference winners, give them something to play for, make it meaningful, and go from there.
Okay.
And that's it. It's very simple. I'm not gonna make it like go into this long. Like it's very simple.
Yeah.
If you're in the top four and if you run your conference and you're up there in the top four, you get the bye. Everybody else, hope and pray the chips fall where they may. Now, do I hate the fact that they're in a voting committee? Absolutely. I wish this was still done by a BCS type computer,
Like
type.
a computer ranking. Yeah.
Because I'm sick of these guys.
These
They
committees
suck.
suck. I think that's what needs to change is the committees.
The committees absolutely suck. Take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Take the emotion out of it.
Yep.
Let's just base it on numbers. Everything else is based on numbers.
You want to
Everything,
pull out strength of schedule and all this stuff, put it in the system.
everything else is based on
2025.
numbers throughout the year. And this model that they're presenting us is clearly based off numbers. Get rid of it. And I'm good. I have nothing else to say. Your thoughts?
Here's what I'll say. This model, the previous model, ran into I get rewarding Power 5 conference champions, right? I don't get rewarding Power 5 conference champions that aren't one of the 12 best teams in the country.
Exactly.
No, I'm saying so. This happened last year, right?
Yeah.
Where a team won a Power 5 conference, but they weren't even one of the best 12 champions in the country. Like Clemson got in, right?
Right.
That's the only reason they got in, right?
Right.
If Clemson doesn't win, and also like Clemson didn't get a bye, which I get.
No, they did not get a bye.
Nor they should. Nor should
they
they
didn't deserve a bye. They didn't.
Yeah. So then this model supports your theory of saying you get in, you can get in if you win your conference, but you're not guaranteed a bye.
Okay. So the only reason why I agree with you with Clemson is because they did wet the bed the week before the conference championship game. Right. Luckily, that was an out of conference game, so it didn't really bother them. It didn't really mess with them as much.
Yeah.
So it didn't hurt them in the long run. Yeah. And then there was a couple of upsets that also happened in that way too. However, if there is a non-Power 5, why not give them an opportunity at a bye?
Because they don't play the same schedule as a Power 5 conference does. They don't play the same. Boise State should not have gotten a bye last
year. Yeah, I agree with you. Again,
right? I get Texas lost in the SEC title game, right?
Right.
I get it.
Right.
Texas was one of the best teams in the country for 11 weeks.
Right.
12 weeks throughout the entire season. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State doesn't even get into their conference title game, and they had the difficult road to get there. But I think what I want to avoid is the NFL playoff scenario.
Thank you.
That's what I want to avoid, and I think this does that, right?
Yeah.
This says yes, you get in. It does not say, and I think that's what happened last year. Last year is like the way the seating was done. It promoted, hey, 8 and 9 NFC West team,
right?
Just win the division.
Because
you win your division doesn't mean you deserve to have a home game.
Because what I feel like, this is what I feel like is going to happen. I feel like the top 4 teams, even next year, are going to be the 2 teams that played against each other in the SEC championship, or
will be,
or the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
So Oregon or Penn State, Georgia, Texas or Alabama, Texas or whoever, end up in a situation where they play each other, they get a bye. Let's say they went out, they might even play each other again. I'm all for the
SEC. That wouldn't happen until let's just say they got to a point. Like in this scenario, right? Texas and Georgia would only play each other again a third time if they both got to the semifinals. Right. They have to get there, right? There's no guarantee.
In a situation where they might play each other in a situation where they might play each other in a regular season game. then a conference championship game. Then they got to go through the playoff. To be completely honest, the playoff to me is about parity in these dream matchups. What this is turning out to be is a Big Ten championship or a Big Ten versus SEC tournament. That is exactly what this is turning out to be. And I did like the a small amount of parity that we got last year, with the Boise State in there, and having SMU in there, even though they completely wet the bed. But there was a lot. To me, there was a lot of bad matchups, and this is completely on the committee.
Yep.
And in Indiana, they weren't ready yet. But they played.
They overachieved. Yeah, they
they played very well, and they got into the playoff, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. They just so happened to run into a buzzsaw. So I just don't get to a point to where this is just a tournament of the Big Ten versus the SEC, and that's exactly what it feels like, and I hate it.
Here's what I'll say about that. Let's look at the men's basketball tournament, right?
Right.
Called the NCAA tournament.
Right.
9 times out of 10, you get these matchups of like the best teams and the best conferences and the best most. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Every now and then, you're going to get a Cinderella that kind of like pops out, right?
Right.
Like you could have that happen. That same thing could still happen. Look, you go through this entire tournament, Clemson can get to a semifinal in this scenario.
Right.
And Clemson is not like in this scenario. They are your like, dang, like they're like your 8th seed in the NCAA tournament, right? Arizona State is like your 9 seed. Mm-hmm. You're not every year. You're not going to get a Loyola Chicago that gets all the way to the freaking Final Four. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Now look, you go through this entire format, and 10 years from now, West Virginia gets into the Final Four, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tulane gets into the Final Four because they just have built. The other thing that balances and creates the other thing that creates more parity in all of this is NIL.
Of course.
That's what creates parity.
But who's got the money in the NIL?
A lot of schools have money in NIL.
I know.
It's just a matter of how they do it.
If we were to go, and we can do this at some other time, but if we were to go and look at the teams with the most money in the NIL era right now, majority of it is going to be SEC schools, predominantly Southern schools in the Big Ten.
But here's the difference, right? They're putting in measures to say everybody can only spend the same amount of money.
Oh no, I love that.
So that's what creates. So now in Alabama or whatever, they have to spend the same money as a West Virginia.
They do have to spend the same money, but Texas, you get an Arch Manning at Texas, and he's got the most money, and Texas ain't even give him. He doesn't have an NIL deal with Texas, so just that alone, they've already found a loophole to negate this. You think Texas doesn't have other money or other partnerships with other businesses around it, dude?
That's not Texas's fault.
No, I'm not.
But it happens in the NFL too.
I'm very much.
If you go to an LA, if you go to a New York, if you like, that's just life.
That's the nature of the beast. That is the nature of the beast, and I'm not complaining about it. What I'm saying is that even with these stipulations, there are going to be loopholes.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, when it comes to this bracket in particular, and again, I'm just against it because there was nothing wrong with the way that the thing was fixed. We just need to fix who's selecting the teams.
Period. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
Other than that, to me, everything is fine. Yeah. So I'm not on the bandwagon of this. We will just have to wait and see how this kind of plays out for me to have a better understanding of how it works. But as of right now, if you ask me if I'm a fan, and I'm not a fan of this, I'm just not. But we'll see how it works out.
I will say I like the idea because I think it rewards the right schools. And even if that's the SEC or the Big Ten schools, then so be it.
Right.
right? Those are which it should reward those schools because those generally 9 times out of what is it, the last 15 champions have come from one of those two conferences. So why
Right.
shouldn't it reward those schools?
Right.
Those are historically over the last 20 years are the best schools in the country.
Yeah.
Pre-NIL, post-NIL, salary cap, under the table, over the table, between the table, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
These two conferences have consistently been outside of the 3 or 4 year run that Clemson had, right?
Mhm.
Where they get to, they get into the national title game 2 or 3 years, they won a couple,
Mhm.
right? These have been the best two teams in the country, or the best two conferences in the country. Obviously, outside of USC, their little run they had, Texas, their little run that they had. You have anomalies, but beyond that, these have been the two best conferences in the country, and they should be
Yeah,
rewarded.
for sure.
And this should reward them because they are the best.
Right.
Sorry, Texas just happens to be a part of that now.
Yep.
Which thank you, Steve Sarkisian. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So
Thanks, Coach Sark.
yeah, we appreciate that.
Yep.
All right, Tim. We'll see how this plays out.
Yep.
Now just be one of the best 12 teams. You have a shot. You get into the dance, and once you get into the dance, you're good enough. Then whether it won't matter. I will say I think college home field advantage is a lot more significant than
for sure. I 1000%.
That is the one thing where it's like you want to be one of the best 4 teams in the country,
right?
Because it is that much more significant,
right? Especially if you are in Texas or in Ohio State or in Oregon or in Michigan or in Alabama or any of these Clemson's, Virginia Techs, all of these guys that have these amazing atmospheres, these out-of-body experiences where people actually that are not even fans of these teams still go to these games to get that to get that overwhelming feeling. Even Notre Dame, I took
Notre Dame,
Penn State, game Penn State, Boise State in the blue field.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are teams that have unique experiences in college football, and that is definitely one of the things that I think as the casual fan watches the playoff, they get to kind of see the pageantry and the tradition in college football and why people are so passionate about it.
Yep. All right, Tim. Well, that's all I had for tonight. I do want to get your thought on one more thing before we get out of here.
Okay.
What's EA doing?
They're waiting. I think what ends up happening, Microsoft has a press conference here coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think we see something.
You think that's when they show it?
If not, then I believe we see something here within the next couple of days.
Gotcha.
Top of June. Now the teaser for the college football and the Madden, I thought was a little bit lazy, but it made sense why they did that. Why they combined the two, because
that made sense.
They're trying to make it as seamless as possible as they did back in the day of having, the EA Sports College Football basically transition right into a situation where you have Madden and you can continue on just on your football journey per se. So, but I thought it was a little bit lazy. I thought it definitely needs to be separate. But I think in the next couple of days, we will see something. I think we will see something before the end of June or before the end of May.
Yeah, and also tomorrow's Friday. We won't get anything unless something drops tomorrow miraculously. Obviously, you're not going to get anything on Monday, right, with the holiday.
They might just do it. They might drop something online.
No, that's not. EA doesn't do. They don't do stuff on holidays. That means they got to be engaged. They don't do that stuff. That company's too lazy to do something like that. I don't see anything happening like at all. Like I would be, if something happened on Monday, that would be the anomaly because that's not the norm. You and I both know that.
Right.
But also Texas and Clemson still delayed. It sounds like as long as the game kicks off before midnight, they'll still play it.
Right.
That's like the rule. So even if they go to 11:30, we'll be up late. We'll be here. I'll be up late, so
Yeah.
I'll be watching the game. I'll let you guys know how things go. Texas loses to one final thought. Texas loses to Tennessee today in the SEC championship game. I think that loss is completely unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
They go up 4-0. This team on more occasions than not, and I thought the pitching was actually pretty good, right, to start the game. You cannot strike out 17 guys. That's absolutely insane to me.
Right.
Texas struck out. I think when I tweeted about it, it was 17. I think it ended up being like closer to 20 by the time the game ended. And Texas has done that a lot, like a lot, and it's so much so to where it has become concerning. And if they cannot fix that before the NCAA tournament, this team will not make it to Omaha.
Yeah.
This year, they need to figure that out because striking out that many times within the course of a game is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's unacceptable at this point.
Yeah,
but again, I would rather them do this now than in the actual tournament. Like, don't wet the bed in the tournament.
I get it, but Rylan Galvan struck out 4 times today. And it's not like these are like, on pitches that are like, whoa, that was a great pitch, right? Like the pitches were on. The pitcher that came in for Tennessee, like in the third after their starter went out.
Yep.
That guy was really good.
Yeah.
Right. And so we'll talk more about that later. Real quick before it's just unacceptable. Like they got to figure that out. That's not good enough. So that's unacceptable. You can't lose. And too many times they had way too many chances to win this game in the extras, and the batting late in the game was unacceptable. So there's still a lot of things this team needs to figure out. So, all right, Sam, we got to get out of here. Before we do, though, where can the people find you?
You can find me at Tim Wayne on Twitter and at Longhorn Fan Battle on TikTok and on Twitter as well.
Find me at Gandhi at Twitter. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, and we're gonna get out of here. Any final thoughts?
No, that's it, man.
All righty. My name's Reish. That's my guy Tim Wayne. We out of here. Peace.